decisions, client emails, those tasks. How many, even if you have a team, required your attention last week? Well, if your firm feels stuck, you find your revenue isn't growing, and that your team is unable to move without your approval, then there might be a bottleneck in your firm, and usually it's you as the firm owner. That was my experience also. I absolutely was the bottleneck, and it slowed down everything. So I know that that might be difficult to hear. However, this is your business. Maybe you started it from the ground up. It's something that you really care about, and you want to make sure that things meet your expectations, maintain your standards. So sometimes letting go is very, very difficult. And I want to be able to show you exactly how to pinpoint this and how you might be holding your firm back, and also how to start fixing it this week. I'm Loren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to be able to double their revenue working half the time. So with that being said, go ahead and just quickly glance at your calendar. Think about what were the tasks that only you could do and that they took how much time. So think about what are the things that only you could do, how much time did everything require? And we will circle back to that in a bit. But here's what I see a lot of times in small to mid-sized accounting firms is that every decision, maybe every client question, you're the face of the business with a lot of your clients, especially the ones that have been with you for a long, long time. All of those approvals, they all pass through you as the business owner. And because that, you end up with stalled revenue. You can't go ahead and bringing any more additional work because you're buried in your current client work. So your revenue stalls. The other thing is that the stress skyrockets. And as a result of that, maybe you give up some of your personal time, some of those vacations end up getting postponed. Or my experience was that my family time sacrificed. I was working evenings. I was catching up with things on weekends in order to be able to make sure that things were up to my standards. And then the third thing is, as a result of all this, team growth stalls, which means your staff, they come to you for approval. They need to wait until you get back to them. And as a result of that, it keeps them from being able to think critically, and they become very, very dependent on you as opposed to independent. So I'm just going to say there's a lot of information out there, a lot of things about this. It's a reality for small to mid-sized firm owners. And what you want to realize is that so many firm owners stay stuck in the day-to-day. They are a part of everything. Everything needs to pass through them. And because that, you might be involved with about 73% of your client deliverables. And as a result of that, it is something that is keeping you stuck. But if you compare that to some of the top performing firms where the business owner is more of that CEO as opposed to involved in the day-to-day operations, they are only involved in those client touching deliverables about 12% of the times. Smaller firms, mid-sized firms might be involved 73%. Top performing firms are aiming for 12% being involved in those day-to-day operations where everything goes through them. So there's a couple reasons why this happens. The very first one is concerns about delegation. What if they don't do it exactly right? What if they make mistakes? So that is one thing, is you might have some concerns about delegation. The other thing is that your clients, you might be overcommitted to them, and that your clients, especially the ones that have been with you from the very beginning, expect you to do it. They don't want anybody else focusing or doing their client work. They want you to do it. And the third thing is that you might end up micromanaging every detail. Maybe there's a little bit of a control freak going on. That was definitely part of my problem also, that was holding me back. I had to be able to figure out how to get past that part. So when that happens, you feel like you need to review every file, maybe all the details, all the numbers before anything gets passed on to a client. And I just want to say, not most firm owners, maybe you didn't intend to own a firm, but you end up owning one now. So you might be what I call an accidental entrepreneur. And that's okay. That starts how most of us start out. But you are not a glorified employee in your firm. You are a business owner, firm owner, even if you are solo. You want to be looking at things as a business owner as opposed to an employee in your firm. So think about all the things that need your eyes on it, and where maybe you are the bottleneck. That means that it's time that's taken from your personal life. It keeps you from doing higher level work, and it stops you from focusing on business development, which is working in your business, on your business instead of in it. So there's a way to be able to start shifting away from that. If you realize you're the bottleneck, you are burned out, it is not sustainable. And the very first thing you want to think about is just one. Just start with one thing that you can go ahead and delegate. What would that be? It's most likely a recurring task that you've been doing, but possibly it's something that could be passed on to someone who has less skills than you, someone junior in your firm. So just think about that one thing that is very predictable, happens on a routine basis, and it consumes your time. And maybe you don't want to pass on the whole thing yet. You just want to pass on a portion of it, and that is okay. It is a small start. And I was talking with Cindy, and when she was looking at this, she was spending a lot of time every Friday. And as a result of that, she was spending time every Friday reviewing client files. She was preparing the monthly financials for clients, especially the last couple of weeks of the month. And she thought that she was the only one that could do it right, and that she needed to be the one preparing everything because she didn't feel that her staff could do that for her. So we focused on that one task, and she was able to go ahead and create a process. She was able to train one person on her team, and that person was able to now take on most of the preparation. As a result of that, Cindy now only reviews the highlights, and then it's actually those reports are passed forward to clients. So by doing that, passing that one thing, yes, it took time up front to be able to come up with the process, to be able to train her team member on it, but over time, Cindy started saving 10 hours a month just with passing that one thing forward. So as a result of that, she no longer felt stuck. She had some energy back. Plus, her clients didn't even notice. They had no clue that she was no longer the one that was doing all the tasks and putting it together, that she was only doing a review. They had no idea. So it wasn't that there was a bottleneck with everything in her firm. It was that Cindy thought that she had to do it all herself. And once she was able to take the risk, put things together, train that team member, it was something that was like a breath of fresh air for her. So think about, what is that one recurring task that you've been doing that could be passed on to somebody else who is a little bit junior? And even if you don't want to delegate the entire thing, just delegate a part of it. Then focus on how much time you start to reclaim, and see if that is something that makes a difference, what you're able to do with that freed up time. And maybe now there is Act 2, that second task that you want to go ahead and delegate off your plate as well. But just start with one. That's all you need to think about. And once you start moving this direction, it's time for a framework. And this is what starts to break the bottleneck in your firm. So this is what I call the DTP method. The DTP. Okay, drop the bottleneck. This is where you want to think about systematically starting to delegate things and creating those processes, the systems, so they are repeatable and that anybody in your firm can eventually do it, or maybe people in a specific role. So the first thing is drop the bottleneck, start to be able to delegate and systematize. The second thing is tighten the boundaries. That means that you need to be more clear about client expectations. When they come into you with that small request, maybe you need to let them know that's not part of your current package. Or when they are reaching out, maybe it's now you have a team member answer those emails instead of all those emails flooding your inbox. So start to tighten the boundaries. And then the last thing is pick your battles, okay? What are the things that are low value that you don't need to be doing anymore? And where can you start to maybe prioritize more of that higher value work? So that's the DTP method, is drop the bottleneck, tighten the boundaries, and pick your battles. And it's something that has to do with, let's say, traffic management. Think about it like that. When you come to a crossroads in a city and everybody wants to be in the middle to be able to move forward, you need to clear the congestion. You need to add in more lanes, especially if it is a growing city, and you want to be able to choose the fastest route. So we want to have traffic management in your firm. Clear the congestion. Go ahead and start to add lanes. That means that there's not just one lane, which is you, there's other lanes also, and you want to be able to choose the fastest route. So that's the very first thing. And I want to be able to go a little bit more deeply into how to apply each one of them. So the step one, drop the bottleneck. This is where you are now starting to pass on things that your team has the skill set or can acquire the skill set to do. So start to think about assigning tasks and now creating accountability. You might want to be able to use some words with a team member about, you've been with us for a while. I know that you can do this. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to you. I'll give you some training. I'm going to show you the exact steps. And once we see that you can do it, you're going to own it completely. I'm not going to micromanage you. I know that that's hard to say. I'm not going to micromanage you, and I'll only review the final work for approval before sending it out. But everything else, as far as the process, the timeline, the decisions, those will be yours. So by doing that, you're going to be able to start to free up some time. You're going to now empower one of your staff members. They're no longer going to need to come to you when they are stuck. They're going to start to have some critical thinking skills and come to you with some options maybe when they're stuck, but be able to work with you on which is the best route based on what they have been able to find out and research. So that's the very first thing, is drop the bottleneck. Second thing is tighten those boundaries. Most firm owners can benefit from this. So this means we need to stop scope creep in its track and how that is eating into time as well as profits. So if someone, a client, comes to you with that request, then the response you want to be able to let them know is, this is outside of the current scope of what we're doing for you. And if this is something you want us to do, I can review it. We will get back to you, but it might be that we need to look at this as a special project, or we're going to go ahead and add it onto your renewal if this is something that you need on a regular basis. So that's something to think about, is you want to have a response when those requests come in instead of immediately saying yes without going ahead and revising the scope of work that you're doing for your clients or the fees that you're charging. So when you have people coming to you and they have those requests and you're able to respond to them about what your process is, then your client feels informed. And also, if your team member can be the one to address this, they feel empowered. Maybe it's not you that has to do the addressing. Maybe you have trained a team member on how to be able to respond to this. And as a result of this, once your clients realize that not all requests will just be immediately done without any revision or any change in compensation, then some of those scope creep requests, they start to just go away. So it stops. And basically, once again, this is probably something you can train a team member to do, and that you don't need to do them yourself, especially if your team is doing most of the client work. They ought to be the one responding to those requests. So let them become your client-centered advocates. And the next thing is pick your battles. That's step number 3. Pick your battles. You want to be able to focus on the high value work. So once again, not everything deserves your time and your attention because you are the firm owner. And this is true even if you're that solo firm owner. As you're getting busier, not everything deserves your attention. So when something comes to you, you want to think about this task and does it deliver measurable results? Or am I just doing it out of habit? So think about that. There's things that you might be doing for clients and they might not really need it, but you've always done it. So you just think that they expect it, but it's not as important to them as it might be to you. So once again, you want to start to look at things with a little bit more of a magnifying glass. Does it deliver measurable results? And is it something that makes a difference for your clients? So, or is it something that you're doing out of habit because you've always done it that way? So think about first that low value work. It might be that you're the one doing the routine data entry, you're doing repetitive compliance reports, but they could be passed on to somebody else on your team. Or maybe you need to bring in someone to your team because you've been doing it all yourself and you need to bring in a team member because it's the only way you're going to be able to grow. And then the other thing you want to be looking at when you're picking your battles is what is the high value work? What are the things that maybe only you could be doing or someone more senior in your firm? It might be about strategic tax planning. Maybe it is doing more advisory services with some of those high quality clients that you have, or it could even be team development. So think about that. And as you move with this and you start reviewing everything as to picking your battles, what you want to hold on to, what you want to release, then it's something that's going to be able to, once again, free up some of the time and allow room for your firm to scale, as well as not be stressed out so much. So the thing to think about is, where are you doing $50 an hour work when you ought to be doing maybe $350 to $500 an hour work? So once again, where are you doing $50 an hour work when you could be doing something that's more $350 to $500 hour work? This is true whether you are a bookkeeper, an accountant, a tax preparer. Your time is your most valuable asset within your firm. So once again, I just want you to think about, what is one thing you wish you could let go of today? What would that be? And maybe it's monthly client reports, maybe it's payroll, maybe it is about doing the tax forms itself. You just want to be doing review. It could be something else that you're doing for your clients. So think about that and think about what maybe you're doing for your clients that they don't even care about. It's not important to them in the way that you think it is. It's just been something that you've always done. So it's a habit and it's been on something routine, but you haven't given it any second thought. So we want you to start now applying that DTP method. That means that drop the bottlenecks. This could be where you are doing things involved in the day-to-day. We need to get you out of that. So where can some of those things get passed on to somebody else? Or where do you maybe need a team member where you haven't had one yet? So that's, and the third thing is, where can maybe something manual be automated? So we want to be able to look at ways to free up the bottleneck. The second thing is in the DTP is tighten the boundaries. When people are asking you for those small favors, those requests, or you're not getting responses from people, you need to be able to have a way to be able to respond to them or to be able to get things moving faster. And part of that might be your client agreements. Where do you need to be more specific about what's included, what's not, and also how to be able to set client expectations. The third thing is pick your battles and think about where you want to be able to free up time to focus on higher quality work with your clients or projects that are just waiting for you that you haven't had enough time to be able to get to. So by doing this, you're going to free up hours in your firm. You're going to have less stress. You're going to be able to have team members that are now more critical thinkers. They've been empowered to be able to do more themselves. They're no longer coming to you for everything. including not knowing how to do something. They're figuring it out for themselves. And then they're coming to you when they really have exhausted all the options and they need your input on that. So you might be thinking to yourself, clients expect me to be the one doing all the work. Or maybe something else is that the quality won't be the same if I have a team member do it. Or my team isn't ready for this responsibility. I understand all those concerns. They are valid. But here's what I've seen over and over and over again as I work with accounting firm owners is that delegation, clear boundaries, they strengthen relationships, and they also build team confidence. You actually end up with a stronger team as opposed to ones that don't think for themselves. They're stuck in the routine, the mundane, and as soon as anything new comes their way, they have no clue how to handle it. So we want to be able to have delegations. We want to have boundaries so that you can actually have your team grow, which frees you up so that you can focus on firm growth. And the other thing is that your clients, they are not as concerned as you think about who is doing the work. What they are concerned about is that you are responsive and that you give them what they need so that they can focus on their business development and see the results of the services your firm is providing. But they're not as concerned about who is doing the task as you might think they are. So once again, let's go back to that one thing. You looked at your calendar earlier. You looked at everything where you were involved, whether it was a client email, completing reports, or maybe managing all those requests that come in and answering every single question for your team. So think about what is one task this week that you would like to be able to go ahead and start to delegate. And I know the concern is usually more fearful than the reality of what will happen. Once it starts to move in this direction, it will be like a breath of fresh air. You will wonder why you didn't do it sooner. So doing this, especially the delegation, if you are a firm owner, you are a little bit of a control freak, you've been the bottleneck, doing this takes courage. The confidence comes after you see the results of how it makes a difference. So most firm owners, especially if they are small to mid-size, they are the bottleneck in their own firm. That was true with me also in so many ways. And we had a staff of 11 in our agency. So once again, firm owners tend to be the bottleneck and a little bit of a control freak. You want to be able to look at that DTP framework. So think about where you can drop the bottlenecks and have systematic delegation. You can go ahead and tighten boundaries when client requests come in and set clearer expectations with them. And you want to be able to pick your battles in order to focus on that higher quality work. So think about that and be able to look at, once you delegate that one thing, track the time saved. Even if you don't like tracking time, have awareness about how much time you're saving or how your stress has started to reduce because you're no longer spending those extra hours in that particular thing. And also see how it makes a difference with your team, that you're giving them something that is empowering them, that you're training them on doing something that they weren't able to do up until now. So see how it makes a difference for you as the firm owner. See how also it empowers your team member. And if you want some help with going in this direction, being able to free up maybe even 6 to 10 hours a week by being able to systematically delegate, then let's go ahead and have a conversation offering a business breakthrough strategy session. It's an opportunity to identify the bottlenecks and where there are growth opportunities, freeing up time, reducing your stress. If that appeals to you, go to businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk it. Talk to be able to get it started. Once again, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk to be able to have that bottleneck breakthrough strategy session. And I would love to hear from you. How did this resonate with you? What did you take away? Maybe what did this affirm? What do you now have the courage to try that you've been thinking about, but you haven't been ready to implement yet? All it needs to do is start with one decision and then one step. So what is that one task that you would like to stop doing today? And why haven't you stopped doing it yet? So let's go ahead and have that one small step, that one action you're ready to take right now. Stop thinking about it, start doing it. And as a result, your firm will move in the direction of starting to run without you being at the center of every single decision. This is Loren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting firm owners how to be able to double their revenue working half the time.